Hey guys, Rory from A&S Gear. We've got an Exalt accessory for your EMEC 100 or your EMF. This is the kill switch trigger. So this is an all aluminum trigger, has dual ball bearings on it. It also has 3 adjustment positions on it. You can see the triggers laying out right here. You can also see that they have a post. This is going to come in the piece here. So it's going to come stuck in like that. You're going to want to make sure you use this trigger post, not the one that comes in the gun, because this one is meant to fit these bearings that are in this trigger right here. So let's talk about the trigger itself. All aluminum construction. It does have the dual bearings on there, so you get a nice smooth swing back and forth. And then you do have 3 points of adjustment. You have a screw up at the top, screw in the middle, and screw at the bottom. This screw is going to control the start position of the trigger, or where it comes back to when you release the trigger, how far back it travels. You can look at it from two different spots, where it starts or where it ends when it comes back. So you got that. You've also got one that will control the activation of the plunger onto the valve right there. So the post that sticks off the valve that the trigger rocks against to activate the valve, that's your screw in the middle right here that you can adjust when the trigger is going to encounter that post and when it's going to start moving it. A lot of times I see, or shouldn't see, I've talked to people who've picked up aftermarket triggers and they have an adjustment screw like this, where the screw from factory is set too far in. So you can see that this screw is in a little bit right now. And when they install the trigger, this screw is pushing on the post that activates the valve. And then they gas their gun up and they pull the trigger and nothing happens. Well, that's because this screw right here has pushed the post too far back. And the gun thinks you're pulling the trigger. Even though you're not touching it, it thinks you're holding the trigger down because that valve hasn't reset all the way forward because this screw doesn't let it. So what you want to make sure is when you install one of these in, that middle screw right there, make sure that it is at least flush with the trigger or a little bit further forward. Then you can put it in and then you can start playing around with it. You want to make sure that the gun works first, then play around with it and adjust your settings. But happens all the time. People call in and they're saying, hey, Mike, I put this in and my gun doesn't work, or they return the gun or bring it back because it doesn't work. They just didn't understand how to adjust it. So a little bit of information for you right there. And that goes for any gun and any, on any kind of setup, whether it be hitting a micro switch, adjusting a valve, whatever it happens to be. Make sure that it works before you adjust it. Anywho, and then the lower screw is going to be for stop position, how far back it travels before it stops. That trigger is going to hit the frame, or that screw is going to hit the frame and not allow it to go back any further. So lots of adjustment points right there. Enough talking. Let's put it in. All right. So let's get the frame off first. So we'll remove our front and rear frame screws. Get that out of there. You can separate those apart. Now we've got 4 screws to take off right here. So we're going to take those out. Make sure you're using the appropriate size head on your screwdriver so that you do not strip it out. Because those screws, when they strip out, are kind of hard to get out. So we can take our plate off the top. Got our screws there. Our trigger return spring, we're going to save that because we're going to use it in just a second. Our safety, we're going to just take it out and lay it to the side because we don't want it rattling around. And then we've got to get this pin out that's already in there. Now this is very important. If we look at this pin right here, you can see one side has what they call knurling on it. So that's all these little teeth marks that are on there. The other side is completely smooth. The same pin design is in the gun right now. If I look closely at the edge of the pin, I can see that this side has the knurling teeth on it. If I flip it over, this side does not. It is smooth. When we take this pin out, we absolutely must remove it with the knurling side coming out first. If we try to hammer the knurling side through the frame and through the trigger, you're just going to cause all sorts of problems. I fixed one today that we shot this video where somebody tried to go that direction and they snapped the pin in half inside the trigger because it just wouldn't go through there. So again, take a moment to look. It's very obvious if you look closely. You can see the knurled teeth right there. So we're going to turn it over and we're going to hammer it out the other direction. So I've got my hammer. I've got a punch. That's what you need to put these out. I'm going to set it up on top there. And I'm going to give it a little tap. As you can see, I didn't need to hit it hard. I didn't need to hit it a bunch of times. Now you see the knurling sticking out right there. I can actually grab this now and just slide it out. I don't need to just smash it out or anything. I just need to get that out. Once that's out, I can lift my trigger up. I can set it to the side. Save these two pieces together in case you ever want to put that trigger back in. Again, if we compare the two triggers, right there, you can see no bearings on this one, bearings on that one. Got all those adjustment points. You really have no adjustment points with the original stock trigger. So now we can take this, we can drop it down inside, take our new pin, run it through. Make sure you line your bearing hole up right there. Run it through. And then I pushed it in place with my finger. If yours is a little tight and you can't push it in place, just take your punch, put it on top, boop, 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 couple little taps, it'll go right in. All right, so now that's installed in. Now we can take our safety, run our safety back in there. I'm going to put the safety on just so the safety is less likely to move around. I'm going to take my spring, put it on that little post. That's this little nubbin part at the back side right here. This little thing. The spring's going to sit around that and then go into that little pocket right here. So this circular pocket, the other end of the spring is going to fit into that. And then we just need to push it down and put our screws back in. Make sure that you do not over tighten these screws. Otherwise, you might not strip the head of the screw out, but you'll strip the material out and the screw will just spin around and around and it will never tighten down. So be very careful. If you're using an electric screwdriver like this one, make sure it has a slip set up on it so that it won't overdo it. If you're doing it by hand, once you feel the resistance, just stop. Don't keep going. All right, let's take our safety off. Trigger works just fine. Now we can go back in and put our screws back in. Very simple to install, very simple to manage. You really have to understand, though, how important this screw position is to the working of the gun. Being off by a 1/16 of an inch can make the gun not work. So just make sure you start with that thing all the way back in. But there you have it, kill switch triggers from Exalt for the EMEC 100 or the EMF. Easy to put in. Again, gives you some adjustment control, which is nice. Gives you a nice smooth trigger pull right there. And plus there's a lot of spring kits where you can make it really soft, really stiff, however you want to do it. And plus you got lots of colors right there. So kill switch triggers from Exalt, installed easily at ansgear.com.